And it's the end of the summer, she thought, rubbing some rouge into her cheeks. She could hear the sound of Kate's new beige heels marching about in the kitchen. She eventually joined her for coffee. Beads of perspiration were already forming on both girls' foreheads. Emily sat down and pressed her index finger to the bridge of her glasses, attempting to prevent them from sliding down her nose. She poured some milk in her coffee and used both hands to lift her cup to her unpainted lips. Catherine, with a beehive of chocolate-brown hair, held a compact in front of her face and pressed her nose. She complained of the heat, and how she wished they could afford air conditioning. Emily complained that she had to return her friend's car up in the Bronx, where her own green Fiat was parked. Then she said, pointing around the corner, "Hey, does she sleep all day or what?" Kate rolled her eyes and grinned widely. She pressed her finger to her lips, forming a shushing motion. Emily was referring to their third roommate, 21-year-old Janice Wylie. Emily dubbed her the blonde bombshell, based on her bouffant of blonde hair and stints in amateur theater groups. As it was, Emily had only been living in their 57 East 88th Street digs for the month. Kate, a roommate at Smith College, was the one who helped orchestrate the temporary arrangement. Emily was moving downtown with her friend Susan in a few days. In all the moving, they hadn't really had a chance to gossip. "Do I look like a mother to you?" "Kate," Emily whispered, Did you know she sleeps in the nude?" Snapping her compact closed, Catherine answered matter-of-factly, "If I had her figure, I would too. Besides, it's horribly hot." Just then the phone rang, reverberating throughout the apartment. Catherine jumped up and marched over to the living room, the heels of her shoes making a loud, clomping noise as she went. She heard Janice call out faintly that she got it. While chewing on a piece of toast, Emily said, "Say, I thought she was going to be in Washington today for the march." Catherine walked back to the kitchen and grabbed the garbage. "Just a sec. I always forget to do this first thing." Kate walked over to a door in the kitchen that led out into the service stairway. On the stairwell sat an orange garbage pail. She tossed the garbage in the pail and came back inside. "Her ride fell through at the last minute, apparently. That's probably Newsweek on the phone. I think she was trying to get some hours in today." Kate sat back down and took a sip of coffee. "I wish I could have gone," she added. "No kidding. Is it going to be on the tube?" "Apparently. In fact, it might be on already." "Oh, Kate, let's catch a minute of it, shall we?" The girls grabbed their coffee and headed into the living room, where Emily flicked on the television. Catherine glanced at her watch and chose to stand rather than sit, as it was close to 9:30, and she had to get downtown to the Time Life building, where she worked as a researcher. In black and white images, they watched a sea of people walking along, many with signs. A voice interrupted, announcing that upward of 200,000 people were expected to march from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. Emily sat on a folding chair and inched it closer to the screen. "Is that wild or what?" she called out excitedly. Catherine nodded, grabbing her purse and keys off the end table beside the couch. As curious as she was about the march on Washington, she was more concerned with getting downtown to the office. "Want to walk out together?" she asked, setting her coffee cup down. Emily nodded and reached for her car keys. She reluctantly turned the knob on the TV until the screen went gray. She remained frozen for a moment, just long enough to see her reflection in the rounded screen. She blinked and pouted her lips. She could hear Catherine tapping her foot impatiently in the doorway. She slowly lifted her purse strap onto her shoulder. Then she leapt from her chair and raced Catherine out the door. Sometime before noon, after having returned from the Bronx with her green Fiat, Emily re-entered the apartment and heard strange noises coming from her bedroom. She wandered down the hall in her brown sandals and, distractedly, turned to walk into her room. She saw Janice, naked and panting, with a man on top of her, unbuttoning his pants. Emily stood in the doorway, studying the scene for a moment, before managing to say, albeit under her breath, "Janice?" Instantly the man turned, frantically climbing off the bed. Emily looked from the man to Janice and back to the man. He was young, possibly her age. He moved toward her intensely, a pair of rubber gloves covering both hands.